Please go
So
ahead,
we are
sir.
live.
Now.
Vivek sir, you are on mute and we are live now.
Good afternoon. On behalf of ASSOCHAM, it's my pleasure to welcome you all into this webinar. My name is Vivek Chandra. I am the CEO for Global Branded Business for LT Foods and also the co-chair for the ASSOCHAM Committee on Agriculture. I welcome you to this ASSOCHAM's webinar on cold chain, technologies, convergence, and capacity building. Whilst I am connected with the agri sector, and there is a lot of talk of cold chain in this sector, particularly the farm gate infrastructure and the logistics that is being spoken of after the farm bills. Cold chain is a necessity. Sorry, would request actually the others if they could mute. Thank you. So I'm saying whilst in agriculture, there is a lot of demand and discussion coming around cold chain. Cold chain is a necessity not just for agriculture, but also for horticulture, floriculture, dairy, confectionery, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, poultry, meat processing, to name a few. In other words, it really is something that is going to facilitate these industries and the growth and development of these industries, which really a lot of them are being promoted now by the government through different schemes like PLI, etc. Industry has seen a significant growth in production of perishable products like fruits, vegetables, meat, and poultry. But it has not yet been accompanied by a proportional growth in improved supply chain systems. At present, India is the largest producer of milk, second largest producer of fruits and vegetables, food grains and marine products, and fifth largest producer of meat and meat products. Presently, India is self-sufficient in food grain production, and its horticulture production has grown at a phenomenal pace from 146 million tons in 2001 to 314 million tons 2 years ago. While production of perishables has increased in the past 5 years, cold chain sector potential remains untapped due to the high share of single commodity storage and the large investments required in land and refrigeration units to set up a cold chain warehouse. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, 1/3 of food that is produced for human consumption is lost or wasted globally. That amounts to about 1.3 billion tons per year. India is no different in this aspect, where about 40% of the food produced is either lost or wasted. Same wastage and loss has been noticed in other sectors. According to IBEF, India has the third largest pharmaceutical market in terms of volume and the largest production of generic medicines globally. In pharma, cold chain is recently hot in the news because of the vaccine storage and transportation coming from vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna. But beyond that, on an ongoing basis, pharma sector needs here are very well documented. The wastage and loss of food, the issues with pharma can all be minimized or eliminated with better prevalence of cold chain market and infrastructure in the country. A cold chain infrastructure includes temperature controlled storage space, transportation, trained operational and service personnel with efficient management procedures. There is a huge potential in cold chain sector and the availability of cold chains at a decentralized level to tackle the food loss and wastage, the vaccine and pharma transportation. This needs to be pushed at a policy level. These needs to be taken up by the government as a priority. The outreach of cold chain infrastructure to farmers in India should be the target to ensure food security and prevent the wastage of 40% at farm gate itself. This ambition of outreach can have multiple benefits for all, including the direct benefit to farmers, reduce wastage and loss of food and medicines, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, etc. The government of India plans to build a massive road network in the future. Emphasis will be given to develop infrastructure like dedicated freight corridors, container freight stations. The Indian government has also undertaken several measures to boost and grow the cold storage and warehousing industry in India. This has been done through implementation of several carefully designed schemes aimed at aiding this industry with all the requirements needed for their further development, for ease of doing business, and attracting foreign investments in this sector. There are other various ways to promote cold chains in the country. Firstly, the removal of the regulatory framework roadblocks to create ease of doing business in the cold chain sector can facilitate innovative entrepreneurial spirit. Secondly, there is a need for a business model for cold chain industry that can be applied at a local level, which can ensure involvement of the local people and who can make an earning out of this. Thirdly, the industry should come with cost-effective solutions for temperature-controlled storage spaces and transportation, as the initial investment required in the cold storage, cold chain sector is very large. Moreover, the optimization of the supply chain of perishables can ensure reduction of wastage. Having a robust cold chain infrastructure with effective policy support and implementation strategy can go a long way in unprecedented times such as now. In line with this, I really look forward to hearing about the latest trends and initiatives by our guests today and how we can develop this industry. So with these words, I would like to invite Mr. Ajay Kakra to take over, share his views, and moderate the session going forward. Thank you for doing so. And I would once again like to welcome all the guests, all the participants, and I hope this session would be productive and fruitful for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vivek ji. Thanks a lot. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone, our participant, our panelists, and Vivek ji, all for this cold chain webinar. And so I introduced myself. I'm Ajay Kakra. I am the leader for food and agriculture for PricewaterhouseCoopers India. And I'll be the moderator for this session. Before I get into introduction of the panelists, I'll just have to take 2 minutes sharing my views on the cold chain industry, which probably would be helpful for our panelists as well as relevant to the people who are viewing our discussion. So, Sir Vivek ji, your views were very relevant, and in fact, I just wanted to add a few bit to it. Our cold chain industry is also, the distribution wise also, it is not really a very well distributed kind of industry. It's lopsided. Most of the, at least cold storage infrastructure is heavily inclined towards few states, while the others are having a scarcity of infrastructure. And even in the infrastructure, if you look at it, it's again 83% is going for horticulture sector, while 9% is for processed food, 7% for animal husbandry, and 1% was for pharma, but this might have increased from 1 now to a few more percentages because of the COVID part. We also have a huge gap in terms of other infrastructure like reefer vans. There is a huge gap of infrastructure in terms of reefer vans. We are in dire necessity of increasing the fleets. There is, if you look at it, 85% gap is there currently. While when we look at it distributed across different segments like meat, poultry, or fruits and vegetables or processed foods, again, we don't see equitable distribution. Like fish has the highest, volume going through, which is 24%, while horticulture and fruits and vegetable has very low volume of total production, which is like only 3 to 4%. Now there's a huge upside. If we compare it with some of the developed countries, it is somewhere between 35 to 50%, depending on which country we are comparing with. So that's the kind of gap we are already having into it. And from a value perspective, if you look at it, we are having inefficiency in the logistic infrastructure that would amount up to say 95 billion USD, which is a huge loss that we are making. So the requirement is that we probably need to look at some of the critical success factors for, or some of the pillars, the drivers for cold chain industry, which may be in terms of technology, which you rightly said, sir. There is definite requirement for technology in terms of quality, processes, operations, and any other aspect. Uh, we are also in need for capacity building. I mean, both in terms of infrastructure as well as in terms of trained manpower. So that's again something which we lack. Penetration again is something cold chain industry should be more mobile. It should be borderless. It should be more portable so that there is a huge penetration. I mean, rural India is much of rural India is not that first mile connectivity is not there. Compatibility for multimodal cold chain logistics is definitely required. Now, probably after COVID lockdowns and everything, we believe that this is time for India to look at multimodal logistics capability. And last, which is the profitability part, which I need not say anything. Everyone understands that if you are in the industry, it has to be profitable. Now, let me introduce our esteemed panel. We have with us Mr. Pankaj Mehta, MD Carrier Transport. Pankaj, very warm welcome to you. Pankaj is MD for Carrier Transport. He has been associated with National Center for Cold Chain Development, NCCD, for a very long time, and he was awarded the ICE Award for 2011 for Global Cold Chain by Global Cold Chain Alliance. So that's a brief introduction of Mr. Pankaj. We are very happy to have you on the panel. The second panelist who is representing here is Mr. P. Sudhir Kumar. Mr. Sudhir Kumar, very warm welcome. I can't see you on the screen, but I guess you're there. He's the Director Marketing for Frick India Limited, which is into industrial refrigeration and into different categories like dairy, fish, meat, chicken, and other areas. And he's the founder member for Association of Ammonia Refrigeration. He has a strong inclination towards energy efficient refrigeration systems. Very warm welcome, sir. The third participant that we have is Mr. V. Sumit Kumar. Mr. Sumit Kumar, there. He's the CEO for Transport Corporation of India. Again, very long experience in the supply chain part. He specializes in the supply chain operations for areas like operations, cost optimization, performance improvement, and other areas. He's also the member for CSCMP, which is Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals. So very warm welcome, sir. Mr. Radhesham Dikshit, again a very industry veteran for dairy industry, and he is the founder member and who is the creator for brand Ananda, which was started in 1989, which is now a private autonomous body valuing up around 2,000 crores, which is having a deep penetration in the rural India, around 5,000 villages they're covering with 16 lakh liters of capacity, and he's the dairy specialist in our panel. Warm welcome to you, sir. Then we have Mr. Pankaj Garg. He's the founder for Innovation Through Energy, which was founded in 2007. Pankaj Garg is based in Japan. He's joining us from there, from Japan. And for last 25 years, he has been there, and he has an experience of around 30 years in R&D, engineering, business development, IT sector, especially semiconductors, cold chain and logistics. Welcome, Pankaj. We're very happy to have you on board. Mr. Sanjay Agarwal is our last panelist. Sanjay Agarwal ji brings a lots of experience from the horticulture value chain. He is a ABM Agribusiness Management from Cornell University, US, and he has been undertaking business planning, strategic decisions, target acquisitions, JVs for Devbhoomi. And he has also been associated with Indraprastha Ice and Cold Storage since 1977. So welcome Sanjay ji, welcome to this panel. Now, just before we start, some points for sanitization. We have a limited time, so what we are going to do is instead of having a kind of a group discussion, we're going to have most of our panelists have small presentations with them. So we'll have a small presentation by each panelist, which will be like 5 to 7 minutes, and then probably some bit of question around the area of specialization. And this would be the same order for each of the panelists. And once we are through with the panelist presentation and these discussion points, we will be taking up certain questions in the last 10-15 minutes. So I would request people who are attending this webinar to put up their question either directly to the panelist or in the chat section where they can put up their questions. And if we have time, we'll definitely pick it up, or else, I mean, we can provide offline answers to that. So with this, let me start the proceedings of our panel discussion. So this is an industry which is very coveted industry, and it's an industry which is being looked upon by the entire agri sector. So I'll start with Pankaj Mehta ji. Pankaj ji, you've got experience in the cold chain logistics. I'll request you to throw some light on how the industry trends have been there in terms of the cold chain industry, how it has been shaping up. Uh, we can have a presentation and then probably we can have your views around it. Pankaj ji, we are not able to hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes. Now
Yeah,
I can.
okay. So thank you, Ajay, for the introduction. It's a privilege to be on this panel, and I would like to thank SOCHM for the opportunity. Can you see my slides, Ajay?
Yes, yeah, it is visible.
Okay, so as you said, cold chain, as Mr. Vivek also started with his introduction, that cold chain has got many facets. And there are challenges, there are also at the same time immense opportunities. And in India, now if you recall, in the last 1 year, cold chain has become such a hot topic, especially with the vaccine and the pandemic. And also because of this, as we mentioned, as Mr. Vivek also brought up, 1/3 of the food that is produced gets wasted. So, when Ajay told me that I would probably be the first speaker, I thought this is a slide which we should start with to ground ourselves on the need for cold chain and the impact it can have on the global food picture. So we need to preserve, we need to avoid wastage, and cold chain has been found to be very effective when it comes to reducing wastage of food. And so with that, and India being a large producer, needs to do everything it can to avoid wastage. So when we talk cold chain, and when we talk, in fact, I've been with Carrier now more than 20 years, and we are very proud to be playing across the cold chain. We do transportation, storage, delivery, display cabinet. So when we talk cold chain, it is, you start from protecting the food. You avoid wastage, you protect, you deliver it in the best quality with the best freshness and in the way that the customer wants to consume it. He should feel like, consuming that fruit with all its nutrition. Now we've mentioned a lot about the challenges. Ajay also mentioned, Mr. Vivek mentioned that there are so many areas where we need to do more. We need, there's a lot of disparity between location of cold storage facilities across states, across segments, and there's no regulation, there's, challenges on skill. But I would like to look at where the opportunities are. And believe me, today, the first opportunity is obviously on the vaccine. I mean, the fact that we are undertaking the world's biggest vaccination program cannot be held without an effective cold chain. So we are seeing very exceptional, utilization, management of cold chain facilities across the country, which is making sure that the vaccine you get is in the best condition and does the job it is supposed to be doing. The second one, very rightfully, the position goes to food and agri-perishables. We've seen, we heard that, we are large producers. The need of the hour is post-harvest logistics and cold chain. So we need to do that. This will not only reduce food, it will also ensure better returns to farmers. And as our Honorable Prime Minister has set an agenda of doubling farmers' income, I think this is all the more reason to make sure this happens. And we see in the last 1 year, more and more e-commerce connect with farm produce and ag tech companies. We find many youngsters, in fact, happy to say that many youngsters from the technology front getting into this groove, connecting with farmers, connecting them to the technology players and making sure that the product comes home. And I mean, I think it's a thing we should all be proud of, that even in spite of all the challenges, all the lockdown and restrictions, our supply chain, our food supply chain has been going on very effectively for more than a year now, in spite of all the challenges. So I think we should salute the people who are making this happen. The other opportunity, and Ajay also mentioned this, is our huge coastline and the opportunity it provides. So in the last budget, the government also focused on what it calls the blue economy. I think this is another very important, very potent opportunity where we can definitely do with better infrastructure, reduce the product losses there, convert it into a more organized market. It has immense potential for domestic consumption and also for exports. So I think these are areas, these are segments which I feel have got huge opportunity. And on the right side, I have put some trends on the behavior. So we see more and more awareness about food safety. Today, I mean, the consumer is also more aware of what he is eating. He wants to know where it was grown. He wants traceability of the product. So, and the FSSAI guidelines are enabling that awareness and transformation. Today, our food packets have got a lot of more detail on the product. Online retail, I mean, this is such an evident thing today. I think because of the restrictions, again, this has been such a big game changer. We are all very comfortable sitting at home in ordering food online, fruits, vegetables, butter, everything today comes to our doorstep. So, and this will also lead to a more organized supply chain. I mean, the consolidation that we speak about and the fragmented production. I mean, online retail can be a big enabler to make sure this gets organized. Quick service restaurants, convenience food, deliveries. I mean, while we are shut down, deliveries now are still happening. Takeaways is happening. So, and we see this happening. There is huge expansion in the smaller towns. I mean, the aspirations, of the people to get the best of quality sitting at their home. Convenience is the name of the game. So I think these are very big trends where we see the Indian cold chain sort of moving. See, we already have a very effective cold chain in many sectors. Believe me, when we talk that India has gaps in cold chain, I also want to put a point here that we have a very effective cold chain, say in the ice cream segment. We never hear of challenges of ice cream reaching any small village or town in India. We have an excellent cold chain moving there. We have been conducting one of the world's largest vaccination program even before the pandemic. Whether it is polio vaccine or for the infant child or pregnant women, we were running a very effective vaccination campaign, which is not possible without a good cold chain. So we have many examples of good cold chain operating very effectively. There are obvious and more opportunities where I would like to, put the focus. So now going to the next. When we talk, there is no doubt that we need an effective cold chain. There is no doubt that India has many opportunities. But at the same time, when we look at growth, when we look at the cold chain adoptions picking up pace, we also need to ensure that this growth is a very conscious, aware growth which takes into account health, safe, and sustainability. So it has to be very mindful growth. And Carrier, in fact, last year launched this program, Healthy, Safe, Sustainable Cold Chain, which will look at the 4 pillars you see here, which is ensuring food security, vital medicine, making sure vaccination happens. The third pillar, very, very important trend, is connected cold chain. Today, we cannot overemphasize the need for data and IoT. So a connected cold chain, which will preserve the planet using technology which is sustainable. So here I've just put a couple of examples and then we can move to questions. So when we talk about examples of sustainability, one is it has to be, as Ajay also mentioned, it has to be economical. It has to be market-based. We don't want to use axe where a needle can do the job. So we have application-based solutions like the CityMax units, which are very effective for last mile delivery. We have solutions, we are working on alternate energy sources. Fossil fuel, again, an area where we need to, try and get away. So we are looking at electrification. We've worked on technology with, AdVolt, which is your drivetrain, it takes power. We take power from the power takeoff unit, and the connected cold chain connecting the data across the product from end to end, whether it is moving in reefer trucks, it is stationary in a cold storage. If we can get end-to-end visibility on the product, just imagine the kind of efficiencies we can derive out of it. So I think this is a very important topic, and we need to have continuous improvement, continuous dialogue to make sure we stay on top of it. That's my last slide. Back to you, Ajay. Ajay, I think you're muted.
Thanks a lot, Pankaj. Very insightful presentation. You touched upon really right points. So my question to you, Pankaj, is that see, we've heard, what are the requirements? What needs to be done? So if you look at future impact to the industry, I'll just ask very pinpointed things. Which out of all these factors that you have mentioned would be impacting this industry or rather will be disruptive for the industry?
I think technology needs to meet the requirements of the industry. Today we are lacking in some of the basic cold chain infrastructure, and we need to make sure that the technology we introduce is specific to Indian requirements. It has to be affordable, it has to be easy to use, it has to do the job. As we say, we have technology which can go a wide range of product, wide control, sophisticated, which may not be required for certain segments of our requirements. So we definitely need to address the cost of cold chain and make sure that the right usage of cold chain. In fact, a lot of our effort goes into education. How to use technology effectively, how to optimize the loading of a truck, for example. Okay, these are very basic things, but they are so important when an industry has to move from non-usage to a usage. So when you ask me, I think use of effective adapted technology for the markets and proper education, I think are aspects that we focus on.
So do you feel, it is the owners of the stakeholders, the private sector companies to take it up, or do you believe that it can be, some bit of this can be, capacity building can be done by the government itself?
I think, frankly, Ajay, it's a collaborative effort. It cannot be any one person's responsibility. So it is, the industry the government and even trade association like the ASSOCHAM, which are facilitating, through events like this webinar. I mean, this is also part of awareness and education. So we do training at various levels. One is for the importance of cold chain, what why it is needed. We even go to say doing pilot studies. Just to give you an example, we did a pilot study on the Kinnu fruit from Punjab to Bangalore, which was such a big enabler for people to follow the example. And similarly, we do driver training and we do, training for the operators. So I think it has to be done at various levels through everybody who can do it.
Great point, sir. So I think we'll note that point, and probably that can pave the path for maybe looking at deeper impartment of knowledge, deeper penetration, because the more you are aware, the more you are likely to use it.
Absolutely.
So that's the whole idea. Thanks, sir. Let me now move to Sudhir Kumar ji. Sudhir Kumar ji, welcome, sir. I mean, now let's understand your views, sir. We understand that you have, I mean, you have some viewpoint on green cold storage. We would like to hear your views, and then probably we can some discussion around that.
Thank you, Ajay, and thank you, ASSOCHAM, for giving me the opportunity.
Shirish, can you present his slides?
No, I think I'll present.
Okay, you'll present. Okay.
Is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Is it visible now?
But I can't see it. Can others see it? No.
Is it visible?
No.
Hello?
No,
Yeah,
sir, it's
no,
not
sir.
visible, sir.
Not visible.
Not visible.
My screen I'm able to see, but
In that case, sir, I'll present your. I'll share my screen, and I'll present your.
Okay, take my share screen.
Some perils of technology, sir. We were just talking about technology.
Yeah.
Sometimes technology doesn't cooperate too well. So, in fact, in the meantime, sir, what we can do is, I mean, maybe we can have your views on the issue of sustainability in cold chain.
Yeah, I think that's a very important question which you asked. Sustainable, definitely. If you ask any cold storage owner, he will say the business is not sustainable, mainly because of the reason that we are more into a single product cold storages. Like if you take potato, like India is predominantly in the positive temperature, we are more in the potato cold storages. In the potato cold storages, and we have reached a saturation level in potatoes or red chilies. So sustainable in a single product cold storage will be difficult. We have to catch up the opportunities on various other multi-product cold storages also, and also we should go for negative temperatures. Like internationally, if you talk cold storages, it's mostly they talk about negative temperature cold storages. Whereas in India, we have a lot of positive temperature cold storages, but there is a shortage of negative temperature cold storages. That is mainly due to the reason our consuming pattern. We are more used to eating fresh products, so people don't go for frozen products. So I think that's the reason, but it is sustainable because with the population expansion into cities, people will be eating a lot of ready to eat food. So there will be a lot of multi-product cold storages will be definitely sustainable, but single product at remote locations for that has reached a saturation level. I think now Shirish has put the presentation.
Yeah,
I think I'll go to the presentation first. So basically this is a presentation. We have all been speaking about the losses, about 35 to 40%. I would say that maybe in my 30 years career, the percentage is not reduced. We have been speaking of reducing the losses, but it's still at that 35 to 40%, even though a lot of improvements have happened in supply chain and cold chain. And as my fellow speaker, Mr. Pankaj said, a lot of happenings are happening in logistics improvements, but still the wastage is, if you cumulatively add, it is almost 40%. But the main losses in India is in the pre-harvesting stage, because of how you grade the product, harvest the product. There you have the maximum losses. And once it comes to the cold storage, definitely the shelf life is extended. And again, the lossage is again in the breakage in cold chain. Once the product goes out of a cold storage, we don't transport in a reefer vehicle mostly. We transport in a normal vehicle, or it is the product is left in the open for 3-4 days with a retailer, or in a what do you call, the cart person keeps the apples in his cart, which is not refrigerated. So the losses there happens more and in the harvesting area. Next slide. So the green cold storage is basically to give you a product all throughout the year, reduce the wastage, and also why we call it green is because it reduces the global warming effect, and it minimizes the post-harvest spoilage, extends the shelf life and quality and aroma of the product, and prevents the decay of frozen food products. Next slide, please. So green cold storage in the meaning, like we say that the refrigerants which we use, like initially about 150 years ago, we were using natural refrigerants. Then a lot of man-made refrigerants came and they were energy efficient. But however, due to various reasons, we had to change various refrigerants from CFCs because of ozone depletion, and then we went to HCFCs. Now we are come to a stage where even HCFCs have been phased out. Now we are working on HFCs. And again, the cycle is shifting back to natural refrigerants, like use of ammonia, and a lot of CO2 refrigeration systems are more popular in Western countries. But India being a tropical climate, maybe we will take more time to come on, because there is a lot of disadvantages. We can't use it for a positive application CO2. So we may use CO2 only for negative applications. And even in supermarkets, etc., in the Western countries, they've started using a CO2 systems. Next slide, please. As far as the opportunity goes, opportunities are there. And as I rightly said, there is no single point cold storages are not there, but you can have controlled atmosphere, modified atmosphere storages. Also on the value addition of potato, bulk potato cold storages for the chips as well as French fries. And low cost solution, maybe we can have mobile pre-coolers at farm levels. Then definitely we need a lot of pack houses and ripening chambers. We don't have proper ripening chambers. We use a lot of chemicals for ripening the fruits. And at all these things have to come at a cost effective technology. At the same time, it should be also energy efficient. We should use a lot of automation in the cold storage technology with IoT and a lot of things happening. We need to have automation in cold storage at the lowest cost, and that will help in saving your energy. Next slide. So there are categories which every one of you know, but the major categories are -18, where we have been discussing a lot of products like vegetables, ice cream, fish, poultry, meat. Chilled is the normal traditional cold storages like potatoes, apples, fresh fruits, and even milk products. And fresh chilled chicken is one of the biggest opportunity for chilled cold storages. Then medium or mild chilled is basically for chocolates and other seeds. Seeds is another important opportunity. A lot of seeds are kept at around 15 degrees. And then a normal is dehydrated foods, pickles, oils, and I think it's not whole onion, it is basically onion flakes. A lot of places in Gujarat, they keep onion flakes at 15 degrees or so. Next slide, switch. This is how a modern cold storage with racking system looks, where you can better utilize the air distribution as well as hygiene, and also the space requirement is properly managed. Next slide, Srish. These are energy efficient, eco-friendly equipments which are being used in cold storages. One of the latest innovations is screw compressors in the refrigeration field. Apart from the reciprocating compressors, now a lot of screw compressors are being used in food processing industries and dairy industries. And of course, air cooling units, everybody are aware. Next slide. Automation, as I said, is one of the most important thing, which gives you accountability, also gives you data, and also you can increase your capacity. A turnover of products can be better, and also it reduces the energy cost. Thank you. Thank you, Sirish, for sharing the presentation. Over to you, Ajay, for any questions.
Thank you, Sudhir. Thank you, Sudhir. Just wanted to check. So when you're talking of natural gas like ammonia or carbon dioxide being used, so can we just have your view, sir? I mean, how much efficient would it be than a conventional one?
Pardon me, I couldn't follow you. Yeah.
I'm saying that when we are using carbon dioxide or ammonia as the gas, so how much efficient would it be from a conventional cold storage setup?
See, ammonia is there all along. We have been using ammonia all along in India for cold storages. And it is energy-wise, I think ammonia is the best in all the thermal refrigerants. But various technologies and how you operate the plant is what made other refrigerants more effective. But on the thermodynamic properties as well as kilowatt per TR, I think ammonia matches right up in the top, one of the few refrigerants. Whereas in CO2 systems, CO2 system, definitely it is better, but it will have little bit of a power penalty because it's like a secondary refrigerant. You have to cool CO2 and then transfer the CO2 into the air cooling unit. So there will be a little bit of penalty, but still it is almost equivalent to any available refrigerants which are available in the world.
So from a cost perspective, sir, when if someone wants to set up a ammonia-based refrigerant unit, would he be saving, say, I mean, any idea, 10%, 20% in the cost?
See, if it again depends on, see, if a smaller cold storage, definitely ammonia will not be price effective. But if it's a warehouse type, more than a 5,000 ton or a
larger ones,
5,000 larger cold storages, definitely price-wise there is not much of a difference. Maybe ammonia can match with any refrigerant.
Okay. I think that's and this is applicable for all, all commodities.
Yes.
Whether it is fruits, vegetables.
Definitely that too. If you see in the low temperatures, lower temperatures, it is even better.
Okay. So if someone wants to have a larger cold storage and wants to maintain it at low temperature, that ammonia would be a best recommendation.
One of the preferred choices. But again, multinationals are again coming back to natural refrigerants because they have committed to their governments that they will not use CFCs, and the new refrigerants are coming up now. So a lot of multinationals are again changing over to, of course, it's got its own disadvantages also. Ammonia has got a little bit of toxicity is there. So you need to have precautions while installing a plant, and it has to be done by an organized segment. And you need to take some precautions. Like we have LPG in our houses, we are driving petrol vehicles. So you need to have precautions. Definitely you need to have precautions, and you need to, and it is like sustainable in a bigger capacity, but not inside a city. Like if you want to build a cold storage in a mall, then definitely you cannot use ammonia. Maybe you can use CO2. CO2 cold storages are there being used with a small combination of freon and CO2 or ammonia and CO2, but it depends. Like.
Oh, thanks, sir. Thanks for sharing your views. Now let's move on. We'll now move to Mr. Sumit Kumar ji, CEO TCI. Sumit ji, will definitely like to have your views on supply chain, end-to-end supply chain.
इतना करने के बावजूद भी मेरा इंटरनेट काम नहीं किया, मेरा प्रेजेंटेशन नहीं जा पाया.
Sorry, sir.
Sorry.
Sumit ji, yeah.
Yeah, I'm there.
So,
I'm there.
yeah, we'll definitely like to hear your views on end-to-end supply chain.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you. Please allow the screen sharing.
Yes, sir. We are giving you the rights.
Yeah. Yeah. So is my screen visible?
Yes, yeah, it is visible.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Sachin, for this opportunity, and Vivekji, thank you for setting up the context. So in the time of interest, I will start immediately with my PPT. So first slide is just about TCI. So TCI is an old company established in 1958. We have got a good turnover of 4,500 crores. By value, we move 2.5% of India's GDP in our trucks or our trains or by air. Employee strength is almost 6,000 and almost 22,000 outsourced people are working with TCI. TCI has got 1,400 branches across the country, and at any given point of time, 12,000 trucks operate in Indian roads. So now let us see how typically a manufacturing company operates. You'll find that there are multiple departments within a single manufacturing company. So I have mapped these main departments within any manufacturing company. Production logistics, which takes care of inbound supply from tier 1, tier 2 supplier. Plant logistics means all the material movement and dock handling within the plant. Then finished good logistics from plant to finished good warehouse, original warehouse, or to the retailers. Aftermarkets, which is setup of supply chain from plant to supplier and then to distributor and to the retailers. Then returnable movements of damages, expired product, or return of pallets, empty bins, etc. If you see, if planning is done for end-to-end supply chain, there can be many synergies within the company itself. Like a truck is coming to the plant with inbound material and go back with finished goods. Likewise, finished goods and aftermarket product can go together to the market. So there can be various collaboration within the company itself. Also, a company can collaborate with other company or industry for reducing supply chain gap and can save a lot of cost. So now see this slide. In this slide on x-axis, we have competency of a company. On north side, you can see the core competency of a company, and south side is the logistics. And now, if you see the y-axis, it is timelines. So company can progress from conventional to visionary company if company department within the company, if departments are working in isolation, then they would want service provider to deliver what they want, not how it can be done better. Gradually, we can see company progression towards excellence with real partnership approach and collaboration. In visionary stage, which is on the right side, you can see customer is only focusing on the core area and of course the strategy part of it. And the entire supply chain is done end-to-end collaborative way, which is lean, efficient, qualitative, and best in terms of cost. So this can give you a very good picture of any company that how they can progress from traditional to visionary. Now, by way of all these, one can have a better equilibrium between service level and cost. So now, for broader understanding, here I have mapped these 7 heads as how it will impact in terms of cost or quality. So first point is truck design and fabrication. So trucks should be designed and fabricated as per product nature, not whatever design of a truck is available and we are loading that truck. I will share one example. So with one of our client who had two product category. One was chocolate and one was gums. So then first we started with chocolate warehouse, and we supplied them temperature controlled vehicle for the distribution purpose. While after some time we transitioned their gums warehouse also in the same facility. But the customer asked us to deploy a separate set of truck. Why? Because this gums has got a very strong mint flavor. And those flavor, there were chances of transmitting those flavor into the chocolates. So they asked us a separate set of vehicle for that. Then we thought over it and we modified existing this temperature control truck into chamber vehicle with two separate doors. One was the side door, one was the rear door. And that gave a saving of 35% in their distribution cost. It will not move to all the points. So I will not cover all the 7 points. So in terms of other points, you can see that with good material handling quality, with good green supply chain, like in NCR, there is a very good supply of CNG, and also one can save a lot of cost in terms of the NGT charges, which is being imposed on every truck by Delhi government. So we can support the environment, we can save the cost, better packaging and better route planning. By way of this entire end-to-end collaboration, we can have this kind of a savings in terms of quality and in terms of cost as well. Now coming to the recent trends in cold chain. So energy plays a very vital role in cold supply chain. If you see the broad trend in renewable energy, it is constantly shifting from coal to other resources. As per IEA's report, it says by 2040, solar energy will be contributing almost around 32% of total power generation. So things are really moving very fast in this space. Also, if you see the payback, so on the lower side, on the right-hand side, you can see the payback period of the capex investment. So currently in India, it is 4 to 6 years. If one invests in some kind of a solar power plant, then one can have a complete recovery of investment in 4 to 6 years. Just for broad understanding, I will share some numbers actually. DG cost per unit of energy varies in between rupees 16 to rupees 25 per unit. In commercial category, electricity supply vary between rupees 8 to rupees 12 per unit. Whereas if we see levelized cost means if we take the entire investment of infrastructure during the entire life of that investment, in that case, the wind power, which is at rupees 2 rupees 80 paisa per unit, will become 2 rupees 60 paisa per unit in 2030. Solar power is with 3 hours battery backup, which is currently at around 2 rupees 90 paisa per unit, will become 2 rupees 30 paisa per unit. Here, high capex cost is involved at the start, but if you see the total cost of ownership, it is far better than the cost of the energy through the regular resources. So a prediction is also made by Mr. Steiner. He says that by the year 2050, electricity generating industry will no longer be charging for electricity, but they will be simply trying to recover their capex cost. So it is a very good example that how things are moving very fast towards the renewable energy side. And also to put one note on the temperature part of it, in normal, say in terms of air conditioning. So if we reduce temperature by 1 degree, it saves 7% of energy in current scenario. So energy is very fundamental in terms of cold chain supply. Now there are some other energy trends. If we see the emerging trends in tracking and storage, eutectic technology, which is passive cooling solution, with the help of PCM material, are seen in a lot of discussions nowadays. Currently, it is found workable basically for last mile delivery In rural area, we see scarcity of temperature controlled storage system. Also, the power is not very consistent in rural area. So at farmland, we can use, so you can see the picture on the right hand side down. So we can have a insulated container with PCM passive cooling plates, where during day solar power can charge these PCM plates, and during night this maintains the temperature. So it will be an independent, self-sufficient system of storage, so that food wastage, what we are talking about today, can be reduced. Now coming to the trend in cold chain, actually it is not a trend but a need of our. In cold chain quality of delivery, the quality of delivery is highly dependent upon the quality of infrastructure one has deployed. With substandard insulation, substandard refrigeration unit, we cannot attain quality deliverables, what is the need of power. And also at the same time, telematics also plays very vital role for monitoring movement, the inventory visibility, the temperature from end-to-end basis. We are witnessing very high need of traceability of a product also. For example, say while buying a mango box, if there is a QR code on the box, and after scanning, one can see who is the farmer, what is the travel history, what is the storage conditions. This will give a lot of confidence on quality. So with this, I will rest my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sumeji. Very interesting presentation, I must say. And in fact, you talked of eutectic technologies. So we have Pankaj in our panel who will be presenting on this one of these technologies, which he is leading. Sumiji, I'll come to, since you have focused on the end-to-end supply chain, I'll come to a basic question which is being faced by all the players and even the industry across the globe, is the question of return logistics. Now, I definitely want some bit of view on that from you, because this is something which is creating I would say that I would say unviability, but I would say that it is creating a lot of cost escalation for the industry. You know, since it is a very specialized movement, return logistics plays a very important role. So I would like to hear your views, sir. I mean, what are the possible solutions, or how do you see this being tackled by the industry?
So actually, in your initial speak also, you touched upon that point. So return logistics actually is the core for any supply chain. So in terms of return logistics, if you see the total production built in India, normally it is in north, west, and south, whereas consumption is across the nation. So return logistics is very vital. Means how to bring a truck from eastern sector where production is comparatively very low. However, trucks are moving there. So this creates a lot of disbalance. So instead of making these industrial zones in certain pockets, maybe government needs to see that how this entire spread of industry is made through. And what I feel that actually, if you see previous time, there were a lot of tax holidays and other things. So all the industries are going into one pocket. Logistically, that was a big means coming the product very costly. Normally, whenever you plan a supply chain, then either you want to be closer to your sourcing point or you want to be closer to your customer. But in these tax holidays, there were need to open up some manufacturing plant in some area which is logistically not correct, but even then it's just to save the taxes. So now we see a lot of good developments in terms of this entire spread, which is post GST. Also, you see that now every company is consolidating their warehouses and manufacturing units. So that is my say, Ajay.
So another thing, sir, I mean, little related, since we are talking of alternate energy sources also. So from a tax perspective, are these alternate sources beneficial for the companies? I mean, does it save taxes for them, or I mean, how does it please?
So I am not the qualified person to answer on taxation part, but I can only say that if you compare cost, because I have given a figure that DG cost is almost around rupees 16 to 22 per unit. Commercial line supply is around 10 rupees per unit, whereas if you see the levelized cost of wind power or solar power, that is less than 3 rupees. So it is, even if there is no tax saving or something, it makes sense whenever you are taking the total length of the services what you are getting.
Yeah. So I'll have to move on, sir. We'd definitely like to have more views from you during the question answer session. So let's, moving on. And before I call upon the next speaker, I'll request the people who are watching us, if they have any queries, kindly put it up in the chat section. We'll definitely like to take up some questions at the end. Please utilize this time for putting up your queries. And I think Shirish and me will be looking at those queries. Some of them we'll definitely discuss. Rest of them we'll try to answer offline. Now let's move to Radheshyam ji from Ananda. Radheshyam ji, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. You can hear me.
Yeah.
So Radheshyam ji, yes. So we'll definitely like to hear about the dairy industry experience from you. That should be something that we are very interested of knowing from you. How you created the Ananda brand and what was your experience? So please kindly do share with us.
Okay, sir. First of all, good afternoon, and thanks to Ajay and thanks to SOCHM. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, sir. Not yet. I think it will take some time.
Oh, okay. It's not visible?
No. As of now, no. Shirish, can you see?
No, it's not visible.
Mm-hmm. Something there. Can you give me this share power? Share.
Yeah. So in fact, dairy industry is something, some industry which is highly dealing with, which is touching all of us every day in the morning itself. You will have to have milk for your daily cup of tea. So I believe that, a lot of efficiency is required in this industry, and probably your experience can definitely help us understand the key.
Yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes. Now it is visible.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Thank you. So I just take very few minutes. So it's my index, just dairy industry overview and temperature control vehicle market and India temperature control warehouse market reasonable, like that. So I will just to next slide. So dairy is the largest single agriculture commodity with 4% share in economy. India is the largest producer of milk globally with approx 198 million metric ton production in 2020-21. Indian dairy industry has grown at approx 12% during last 5 years, with the value-added products driving market growth. 70 million farmers are directly involved in the dairying. Dairy is the only agri products in which around 70 to 80% of final market value is shared with the farmers, and it is accounts for approximately 1/3 of rural household income in India. And again, this India cold chain market, the Indian cold chain market reached in a value of nearby 1,285 million in 2020. The industry and also grown the CAGR of 14.3% over the forecast period of 21-26, attain the value of 2,865 billion. And the demand for cold chain is due to the growth of sector like organized retail, processed food, pharmaceutical, growing shift towards horticulture, etc. Ministry of Food Processing Industries, MFPI, is implementing the scheme of integrated cold chain and value addition infrastructure as one of the components. Pradhan Mantri Kisan this Sampadhan Yojana. During the 3 years, 2016, 17, and 18, 19, 461 cold storage have been sanctioned with a combined facilities capacity of 1,948 metric ton under the scheme of integrated cold chain. The value addition infrastructure also for the cold chain project have been approved under this MAPI. 180 projects have been completed and 133 projects are ongoing. And this, as per statistics of the distribution of cold storage is highly uneven, with the majority of the cold spaces are located in UP, Gujarat, Punjab, Maharashtra, and West Bengal. So temperature controlled vehicles market, out of 105 million tons of perishable goods transported across India, each year only 4 million ton is transported by refit routes, and the perishable goods loss amount rupees 1 lakh crore, and mostly operated by small non-integrated firms. 30,000 plus refitted vehicles are playing in India. Out of total refitted vehicles playing in India, 25,000 refitted vehicles are utilized for milk and milk products transportation. The high cost of the transportation is a major challenge for the refrigerated vehicles market. Temperature controlled warehouse market, 95% of the store capacity is under private players. 36% of the total stores in India have capacity below 1,000 metric ton. There are 8,186 number of cold storage with capacity of 374.25 lakhs metric ton. Warehouse is major contributor in the revenue of cold chain industry of India. Regional distribution of cold storage, 65% of the India's cold chain store capacity is contributed by Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. Uttar Pradesh is 41.4, West Bengal is 23.2, Punjab is 5.5, Gujarat is 5.2%, Bihar is 4.7, Andhra Pradesh is 3.7, Madhya Pradesh is 3.3%, Maharashtra is 2.2%, Karnataka is 1.7%. And government initiative, the government of India has set up the National Center for Cold Chain Development, NCCD, which helps in establishing building standards for international benchmarking to promote research and development activities in the cold chain sector. 100% FDI allowed through automatic route, and cold chain has been giving the infrastructure status subsidy for 25% to 33.3% on the cold storage project. Cost of the project over 50 to 70% capital grant. The project growing emphasis on the food parks and integrated cold chain development. So this is cold chain value preservation, the dairy industry, traceability and trackability. This is procurement, pre-cool and transport and storage, distribution and consumer. This is manufacture and climate control, the cold storage distribution center refrigerated, and second remove retail comparison. This is the value chain. Again, a cold chain is climate control supply chain. Consistent cold chain distribution activities maintains the product at a given ambient range. And the segment is, you can say, this use of refrigerant trucks ban contains for transporting milk and milk products. And again, the key activities, we are doing the activities related to the transportation market for products location. This cold supply chain logistic process, pre-cooling facility, cold store refrigerated carrier, packaging, warehouse, information management system, traceability, and etc. So this is value chain for dairy ecosystem. We procure milk from the farmers, just like village cooperative society, and the milk comes to bulk chilling unit, and then after the processing unit, and then to distributor. Then this is the retailer and consumer. One is this chain, distribution chain, other is home delivery platform and to the consumer. Yoga Karmasu Kausalam. It is the real truth that अगर योग में हम लोग परफेक्शन करेंगे तो कर्म में भी कुशलता मिलेगी. दैट्स माय फाइनल. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you, Radheshyam ji. Thank you.
Ji. I tried my best to take minimum time.
No, that's really helpful. Anand, Radheshyam ji, we just wanted to understand more on milk logistics. Do you believe that there are scopes for improvement in that? We wanted to understand that part as well. I mean, where exactly do you believe that there is scope for improvement? And also, does government need to play a role? We have seen how cooperatives were created and how the entire milk industry has transformed. So, is there a scope for transformation of the milk logistics also?
Yes. Actually, milk there is a 85% of butter and 50% of solids. So if you transport milk from one state to other state, there is a huge cost of transportation. So if we think like if it is possible in train, it is more cost effective, and we can think a lot of innovation like that. I have seen in Italy, they are having buffalo milk. What they are doing, they are concentrating this buffalo milk and just doing frozen, taking this in minus temperature, and after that they are exporting this buffalo milk to US. So lot of things are under innovation in a lot of countries. In our India also, there are a lot of scope. In Ananda, we are also doing a lot of things, innovation in. We have done a lot of innovations in paneer. That is we are pioneer in paneer. We are doing you can say a lot of innovation in distribution, in manufacturing. In terms of milk, we are just chilling at the farm gate only. So the traceability and trackability both are in line in this milk industry.
And does traceability, how much does it impact the cost economics if we implement traceability solutions in, say, milk value chain?
As per my knowledge, if you are doing a quality job, you are giving quality to the consumer. It should be mandatory. It's not you are doing assign to the consumer that you are giving quality. So you should give quality, and this traceability should be the factor. If consumer is unable to know what product he is getting out of which procurement, what processing, so it should be mandatory.
Right. So I think, sir, in the interest of time, we'll now move on to the next speaker. Thanks, Radheshyam ji.
Thank
We
you very
have,
much.
yes, sir, thanks. Mr. Pankaj Garg. Pankaj ji, you're there?
Yes.
Yeah. Pankaj ji, we'll definitely like to hear from you your views on the ICE battery technology and your experience through the cold chain industry, not only in India, but also in Japan and other parts of the world. We'd like to hear from you, and then probably we'll have some questions for you.
Okay, let me go. So, Ajay ji, nice talking to you again, and thank you to everybody. And it is my opportunity to have an good evening from Japan and good afternoon. So let me go through my PC.
Sir, we are not able to view it right now.
You cannot see anything?
No, we can see you. We cannot see the presentation.
Okay. Can you see the presentation now?
No. Sirish, if you have, then kindly sort this out.
It's loading, it's loading. So can you see that?
Yes, it is there.
So let me go through because time is limited. So our company is innovation through energy. So name is innovation. We would like to bring innovation in the cold chain logistics. So I just go through an overview how the logistic is in global market. What's going on? Why it's trying to go next page.
It is stuck, sir, on the first page only.
Can you see next page?
No, not yet. I think there is a lag in between.
Okay. So we are a cold chain logistics product innovative. We are a manufacturer in Japan. And basically all our team is from semiconductor.
Sir, we are still able to see only the first page, first slide.
No, even I cannot see the next slide.
Hitesh, can you help me out?
Pankaj ji, if you can share your PPT with me, I can present it on your behalf.
Shall I send you by email?
Yes.
Just send me email right now. Can you tell me email, please?
I'm mailing you, sir.
Pankaj, so let's do one thing. In the interest of time, I'll move to Sanjay ji. By
Okay.
the time Shirish will prepare himself and then we can finish.
Okay.
So we'll move to Sanjay ji. Sanjay ji, very warm welcome, sir. In fact, we understand that you have been working for around 3 to 4 decades now for in the horticulture cold chain systems. So we'll definitely like to hear your views. I mean, how horticulture value chain has been transformed over these last 2-3 decades, and how do you see it again going ahead?
Certainly. Thank you all my friends, all the friends who are here. I see we have a lot of attendance. That's very nice. Well, I've been involved in this for, I think, more than 4 decades. It's close to 5 decades now. And yes, it has changed a lot. It has changed greatly. It has changed greatly. But our country has changed even more. At independence, we had a population of 40 crores. Today, we have a population of 125 crores. So the demands have gone up exponentially. The people have gone up. And what has changed in cold chain hasn't really kept pace, with the changes on the ground. For instance, in India, we grow, now I'll tell you about one item, apple, for instance. The Indian farmer grows 5 tons or 6 tons of apple per hectare. It's a general trend in the developed countries to get 60 tons per hectare. And the good, countries are even getting 100 tons. So imagine, what a big difference this is. We are still stuck at 5-6 tons per hectare, which was our yield per hectare way back at independence. So we have not really progressed at all. Shirish, you have my presentation. Can you put that up, please?
In the apple segment, I guess this is the high density plantation which is making that happen. So people have adopted that.
That high density plantation is just in so little places. It's insignificant right now. Its presence in India.
India it is.
It is the apathetic, extension system that we are stuck with. So government, it's the government role here that counts. If you see countries like Japan and US, yeah, here it is. So here, this slide just tells you that we are very fortunate to be habitants of India. This is an amazing land which grows picture perfect produce. Next slide, please. But yet, our farmer is poor. Why? I saw on Discovery Channel, a very interesting thing that this one single river, the river Ganga, brings down 3 billion tons of minerals every year from the Himalayas and spreads it on the plains of India, making it single richest, most fertile land in the world. You know, we are blessed to be living in such a land. Sheesh, this slide hasn't come up fully, yes. So with, India has only 1%, less than 1% of the world's surface. And even then, we are growing 13% of the world's fruits and vegetables. And that too at the very low yields, which I told you about. You know, so if we multiply that yield, say 12 times to reach the lower average of the world, then we are at 13 into 12, 150% of the world's requirements can be produced in India. You know, and if we go to 100 tons, you know, we can feed 3 such worlds. Isn't that amazing? And just to let you know the scope of potential in India. Maybe have the next slide, please. Now, why is the farmer poor? You know, I would say there is some clarity needed in the government's thinking. You know, Mr. Rajbir hasn't joined us today. He's a joint secretary in MIDH, but I would have he could have given us some light on this. But for instance, if any of our attendees here want to set up a cold chain, they'll probably go to the government for a subsidy. And the MIDH says that a good cold storage will cost you 10,000 rupees a ton. You know, but actually a real good cold storage will cost you 30,000 rupees a ton. And if MIDH says we are giving you 50% subsidy on 10,000 rupees a ton, they are only giving 5,000 rupees a ton. Now, what does this mean? This means most people will be motivated to make a cold storage within 10,000 rupees a ton so that they can get 50% from the government. And in 10,000 rupees a ton, they'll cut corners, they'll make a very cheap cold storage. They won't be able to afford the best materials. They won't be able to do a good job. So we are really encouraging bad job. I mean, it would be much better for MIDH to say, yes, a good cold storage should cost 30,000 rupees a ton, and we are going to give only 13% subsidy. You know, that would put things in the real correct perspective, not allow this kind of reverse, descent. So the rest of this thing is quite clear itself. Maybe go to the next, please. A cold chain, you know, of course, as you know, is a vast canvas. We have fruit and vegetables, dairy, meat, pharmaceuticals. Previous people have talked about all this. But since I have Apple experience, mostly I'll talk about this. Thank you. And Apple cold chain starts with CA storage and pack house at the farm gate. You know, now of a total Apple production of about 17 lakh ton in India, our CA capacity is only 1 lakh tons. You know, that's about 6% of the production. Now compare that with the advanced countries where the entire production passes through such infrastructure. They have 100% of that infrastructure. So this is again, you know, the indication of the potential we have in India is yet to be exploited by all of us. It doesn't require a crystal ball to see where we will go. We will go exactly where the Western countries have gone. You know, the distribution has to be organized. And it all starts from the roots up. Small farmers must have access to infrastructure. Government has to pull out all the stops in facilitating the emergence of infrastructure. To do that, government first, of course, has to put its own house in order and has to understand the requirements of the industry. You know, this is very essential. Next, if you see, for instance, cold chain is an experience-intensive field. You know, I will really advise all of you not to jump into cold chain unless you have seen and examined the whole chain. Not only do you have to procure the produce from the farmer and keep it in your technological, you know, so that you can maintain its quality, etc. And you have to sell it all over India. You know, that's a huge job. I mean, if you are a small player, of course, you don't need the whole of India. You may sell it in a state. But if you are a substantial player, you have to think about selling in the whole of India. So this is here the government, you see, is encouraging first-time users. They are giving subsidies to first-time who have no knowledge of how to sell it all over. And then we are left with lots of bad projects which are being foreclosed by banks. So this thinking has to be corrected a little. You know, it has to be more of a result-driven scheme the government has. Maybe have the next scheme, please. Next slide. CA storage is being built without thought, and small individual farmers who cannot store. Therefore, there is a failure in many of these projects. Government's policy should be very clear. You know, there should be hand holding. The government people who deal with the public should not think that subsidy is a grant they are just giving to the person as a bonus. No, it is not. Subsidy is something which is very essential intervention, you know, without which a successful project cannot be made. They have to identify the right projects and give, you know, do the proper hand holding. Thank you. Maybe we have the next slide, please. For example, CA is made with 75% government subsidy in the states of Himachal and Kashmir. And the project which buys at farm gate farmer, the farmers are freed from the 40% supply chain loss because they are able to sell their entire produce right at their doorstep. So they don't have to go through the 40% value chain loss. That, you know, so in this manner, the subsidy received from the government, even if it is up to 75%, is passed on to the farmer in less than 2 years. So this is a remarkable, vehicle. Pass on subsidy to farmers. Let them, you know, as the farmer grows in finance, he can have better pre-harvest and he can invest on better, better recovery per hectare. Now you'll see that India has all the hardware. You know, the Ganga story I told you that shows us that we are in a very blessed land, but the software is missing. You know, for instance, Japan. We just had a gentleman speaking to us from Japan. Now the Japanese country is completely bereft of natural resources, but just their government's enlightened approach has resulted in the great prosperity we see in Japan. So there is a lot for us to learn there, you know, and I have put some points here. Maybe have the next slide, please. These are some of the suggestions for the government, you know, that why are they putting GST on coal? They are giving a subsidy on one hand and taking it away with GST. So projects are suffering, you know, and it's difficult. It's a difficult project. It's an infrastructure project. It's directly increasing the farmer's income to more than double. You know, so all this requires thought. Maybe have the next slide, please. This is simply tells you about the import duties on fruits that are coming in from all over the world. You know, America, South America, they are selling their fruits in India. Even though we are applying 50% and 70% duty on them, still the imports are rising phenomenally. This just shows you that there's a huge appetite in India. We have to get in order. We can do a lot of import substitution. Thank you. Maybe have the next slide, please. See, here I've just explained the opportunities in disguise, because every problem is an opportunity really. We are all getting everything distributed over, like one of the participants said, there's a very good supply ice cream. But ice cream, if you go into depth, you know, if ice cream is stored at warmer than -25-degree temperature, there is a Whey separation that occurs in it that changes its taste. And we are not aware of that in India, and we are happy with it. So there's a lot of difference, you know, that we can bring to our thinking. Maybe have the next slide, please. Low yields. I told you about this 5.5 metric tons versus 60 to 100 metric tons. We have the potential to be the fruit and vegetable basket for the world, etc. Maybe have the next slide, please. Here I have said how we can improve the extension work. You know, what we touched upon in the beginning, why is India still where it was 70 years ago? Why is the farmer not much better off? I mean, he's a little better off, but why not much better off? That's because of our failing in the research and extension sector. And here is how my suggestions of how we can address that. It's a long read and we don't have time. So may I go to the next slide, please? This slide is available for all attendees to see. There was a case study about our company done by Cornell University, New York, and it won the first prize at Brussels under the heading Challenges in Transitory Economies. After that, Harvard Business School purchased that case study with all rights. It is with the Harvard Business School, and here is a link where you can read about it. And if anybody is interested, they can buy it from Harvard Business School. So, I mean, it's not that it's only we who have to learn from the West. Here, the West is learning from how we are handling our problems in India. So just thinking, that all of us can do and certainly show a way. May I have the next slide, please? Here I say about an RDC and a SDC. RDC means Retail Distribution Center. This is something that would be connected with the retail platform, whereas an SDC is connected with the growers. So like Devbhoomi has an SDC in the Himalayas, where it is connected to about 2,000 growers and who are able to sell the apple right at their doorstep. They don't have to go to Chandigarh or Delhi or anywhere else. And every farmer today has a mobile, so they can check the price in every mandi around the whole country. And they can be sure that they're getting the same price with Devbhoomi. So that's then SDC that collects all the produce, stores it long term, and then sends it to the RDC, which we have in Azadpur Sabzi Mandi, Delhi, on a JIT basis, just in time basis. And further, it is distributed to the retail platform. May I have the next slide, please?
Sir, I'll have to request you to, for the interest of time, we are running late.
This is the end. I thank you here.
That's good, really good. So, sir, in fact, very interesting things that you brought about the government support, the challenges in terms of costing, and also some tips that you've given to the newcomers into it and the nature of industry. So, sir, we got, I'll just ask, if there are multiple people in the question also which are coming, so I'll just have a view on. See,
Sure.
if there is a standalone cold storage which is being developed by, say, FPO or by a new startup,
Yes.
then how does that fructify to viability to these people? Because being seasonal, it will definitely impact the viability of the cold storage. So, what's your view on that? How these people can actually become
You
viable?
see, yes, certainly, if a good job is done, Ajay, there is seasonality is not really a problem. Because, for instance, I talked about my SDC in the Himalayas. Now, that entire investment caters only to one single fruit, apple.
Mhm.
And we've already spent 100 crores on that facility. And now we are preparing to invest another 300 crores, in more facilities in Himachal.
Mhm.
Now, all this is dedicated only to the single fruit apple.
Mhm.
Apple is a seasonal thing. It finishes in 3 months.
Yes.
So, but the facility is viable, and not only with us, but all over the world. All it needs to be viable is to do a good job. But of course, you think about everything in the beginning. You jump in. You have to examine everything, calculate everything, and then jump in. I would not advise anybody to jump in without thinking. Like I said earlier, they have to think of the whole chain. Not only does it start from buying, but it ends in selling. It must end in successful selling. Unless
So, sir,
any project is market driven, it's not easy.
So, what's your advice on the new people coming that if they're producing, say, handling, say, 100 tons of apple, then what
Right.
should be the capacity of, storage part for them? Because, it is a running business at the time of season. So, how that should be taken up?
100 tons is a very small quantity, Ajay.
No,
I don't think they
let's say,
can.
let's say it
I
is
don't,
1,000 tons or 5,000 tons they're
yeah,
handling, or
if
maybe
somebody is
20,000 tons.
doing 5,000 tons,
Mhm.
then they can certainly consider investing in infrastructure of their own. Otherwise, rental infrastructures are available, where you can rent. and use that. That would be a better option, I would imagine, unless somebody wants to do something else. So it's a project-driven thing.
Right. So thanks, sir. I'll come back on the question answer session. We have last panelist to finish off now.
Please. Certainly.
Thanks, Sanjay ji.
Thank you.
Pankaj ji, I'll again invite you. Sirish, can you please put up his presentation? Yes, yeah, we have it. Yeah.
So this is our company. It's like 14 years old company. We have around 25 patents. And basically our all team is from semiconductors, Intel mostly. And we are also from semiconductor, and we enter in this market to bring some revolutions. Changes, because logistics is very, very legacy. For us, it's a shocking. So this is our team. Next, please. So we are a Japanese company with a vision. 14 years before, global warming was a hot topic. Right now, medical cold chain is a big issue, and food cold chain. So these are the three issues we were thought in mind. Next, please. And our partner in India, Concor, because cold chain logistics globally initiated in any country by government, either Japan, America, and Europe. Without government support, without government backbone, nobody can do cold chain in the world. Japan is all Japanese government, America, UPS was previously also an American company. So this is the way it is. If government will not support, cold chain would be a nightmare because it's infrastructure. Like we graduate from engineering from government school, all governments. So we have to think how we scale, otherwise we continue talking. So next, please. So that's why Concor is bringing this technology in Japan, in India within next 6 months. These are our customers. We have around 200 customers in Japan, including COVID vaccine is already transported by 55 cities in Japan right now. Next, please. So these are some of the testimony, the deployment of our technology and product for the last 14 years in Japan. JR, bullet train, Shinkansen, they use for ice cream, Japan Air Railways, JAL, and also medical cold chain, and some vaccines, some, tumor vaccines in Japan. Next, please. So this is the global market. It was last year $585 billion market globally of the cold chain logistics. And if we try to do some segmentation, it doesn't include COVID vaccine. If we include COVID, this is going to be double, because now each and every individual of the world need vaccine. And it's a continuous process. Every year we need vaccine from now. This virus is not going to stop. So this is what the big market. And now again, if government in India would not help, now Japan government is helping all vaccines, then it would be a nightmare. And I feel so sorry. I lost a lot of my friends in India in this pandemic. Next, please. So these are the 4 issues from the beginning. Cold chain, I lost my sister when 50 years before. So vaccine. And we know we are only 4 brothers, no Raksha Bandhan for me. So that's the reason I started this company. Food loss 40%. And I give you one data about Japan. Japan has 6 million ton food loss every year. And I meet the Ministry of Food, he's saying we have to make food bank. So food loss is there also. And cold chain logistic is very legacy. It need infrastructure end to end. Today, vaccine, I just tell you, is a bitter truth. All pharmaceutical company only believe making vaccine. They don't bother what is the last mile delivery is. This is the bitter truth. And it's shocking. They don't care. They're the GMP and GDP, and they are not disconnected. So cold chain, we don't want to invest, then we cannot survive. That's why vaccine is same as food. Our farmers lost because they cannot deliver their food. They're lacking cold storage in villages. And now we have to make an environment-friendly logistics. So how we bring the change, the way landline, we cannot do landline in entire India. Impossible. The smartphone change. Now in India, each farmer have a landline smartphone. We need a logistics that can exactly seamless, borderless, and without infrastructure can be adaptable. This was a vision we have 14 years before to develop the end-to-end cold chain logistics where we would not complain like smartphone everybody have. Next, please. So ICE battery is a technology we developed, is IP 30 patents we have. We are keep on filing patents. It can do multiple temperature from -35 to +25. We are also making -50 right now. We can give 50 hours for mine. And we can have scalability from 8-liter box to 40-feet container, can give you 3 days. And we have all this, we have IoT solution also very coming. You can see in India by November with traceability end-to-end solution. Next, please. So what we have been doing for the last 14 years, as Mr. Agarwal mentioned, we have to go deep diving in the logistic before we enter in the market. So we make the box first time and blood companies start using, then you make card, it can deliver this, means consolidation. Then you make a truck, is running already more than 100,000 kilometers in Japan. Then you make air cargo container, then you make 20-feet containers, then we IoT solutions. So we have done the entire end-to-end building block of cold chain logistics. Can deliver from any Ladakh to Kanyakumari, no problem. We can do that with passive, no power. So we don't need infrastructure now. The same technology but working in Japan with the same quality we have in India and Bangladesh and Africa, and with a better quality maybe. It's like a mainframe computer. So Japan, the cold chain is legacy. We should not adopt what these developing countries using now. It's like you are making a mainframe computer in India. This is the situation is. We have to think, we have to think at the back foot. So that's the reason we have developed this in Japan and is adoptable in Japan. Next, please. So before that, we have a research on perishables. We talk about temperature in cold chain. We never talk about humidity. CA system is all humidity maintain and temperature. So humidity is very, very important for perishables. So we have a research with the Japanese university, Tsukuba University, 10 years before. They try spinach and baby leaf. It can keep fresh 4 days, 99% water contents remain. And with a refrigerated fridge, it's better. We did a GB Pant University, we did a research on milk. Milk has a python bacteria. It has to be below 4 degrees. Using ice battery, milk can retain 52 hours in winter, 30 hours in summer. The python bacteria microbiological count can reduce. So we have fresh milk. We don't have to do all adulteration. We all know that. India has a huge demand of milk. We have to have fresh milk. We don't have to go pasteurization. And then all the farmers, 70% of Indian milk market is unorganized, only 25. So this is also, we are also going in milk. Very soon we are coming in seafood. Next, please. So we are bringing IoT solution, and few gentlemen mentioned about IoT solution. This is our background. We are bringing IoT solution that is global SIM. You can see anywhere in the world, 220 countries. It has a temperature, it has a shock, it has a open and close and light, all sensor. You can see on the smartphone. Next, please. So this is the global end-to-end cold chain logistics, can be anywhere in the world. It's a very standard. We want to bring a standard in the cold chain logistics, which we don't have today. We have a standard in cell phone, we have a standard in laptop, in all the high-tech industry, we have a standard. So we try to bring a standard in a cold chain logistic at the temperature, humidity, hours. We can trace pharmaceuticals, vaccine from pharmaceutical company to the last mile delivery, which we don't have today. People are dying, even having vaccine, because it's broken. Pharmaceutical company are not bothered. Government has to make the rule which is not there in the world. Even WHO doesn't care. Same thing with perishable and food. So cold chain is broken basically. Either it's food or vaccine. With the semiconductor mind, if you look at the cold chain, just speechless. Next, please. So this is our whole platform of cold chain logistics with a global IoT solution, which can give passive 72 hours, operation cost 60% reductions, capex 20%, maybe higher, and CO2 more than 80%. Next, please. This is the last mile delivery, means we don't need chilled, frozen, and normal. One normal truck can have a different size, different temperature. You can have seafood, you can have butter, you can have milk segregated. So this is the way we can start. Convenience store, like Japan is like they have a 3 truck, chilled, frozen, and normal truck. So I would say we would not take what this America and Japan have a cold chain. We use our normal truck. So our cost would be reduced and better quality. Because at the end of the day, when the frozen food deliver, that is a normal temperature. Next, please. So this is about the Pfizer vaccine in Japan. It was a dilemma, everybody. So 55 cities in Japan using ice battery system for the Pfizer with all temperature control. And so far, everybody is happy. It's so easy. They can see temperature -20 and -25, 24 hours to 48. They can use for storage also, because for remote area, they need 2 to 3 days. So this is already delivery and all customers are very happy. This is beyond Japanese quality, basically. Next, please. So this is air cargo container. We also developed this air cargo container so we can deliver passive. This is lighter than existing container we have in the world, which American and European company making. It is lighter, passive, and cheaper. And it give you 110 hours with ambient 35 to 35. If it is lower ambient, you can get even more mileage. Next, please. So this is the 20-feet containers with ambient average 35 to 40. It give you 72 hours. Initially, it has to freeze, then later on, it give you all. It has no temperature tolerance in all the places. We are planning for milk, perishables, seafood, even vaccines. We are developing also a longer runs containers, 40 feet. So R&D, we are continuous doing. And it has all totally, from a smartphone, you can monitor everything. Next, please. So this is what we try to bring in India. As an Indian, it's pride to be being in Japan, making, and very soon we do make in India product from next year onward. And I hope Concur will scale from now, and let's see what will happen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pankaj. Thanks a lot. In fact, now we have already exceeded the time, but I'll definitely have 1 or 2 questions which were there put up there. Pankaj, just wanted to check from you. There was one question which says that if we need to have decentralized CA storages for storing farm produce. Just want to check, is ice battery container or cards, would that be applicable for this purpose if someone wants to do it on the farm storage?
So if you need 5 to 6, 7 days, it can work without any power and it can work for storage. We already have a data from Japanese university for all perishables. For more than 60 fruits, vegetable we tested. And it is equally better because it keeps humidity 98% and temperature 2 to 4 degree. And there is no air. So it is very good for perishables.
So just for information of all, because there are a lot of network connections happening, issues happening. So ice battery is a passive cooling or a eutectic based technology, which gets charged by electricity, and then once it is charged, it can be kept at the same temperature. Your fruits or vegetables or any other perishable item can be kept at same temperature for a longer duration, which Pankaj is saying that it is from 3 to 7 days. Right, sir?
So our card can give 96 hours.
96 hours, okay.
When
that
ambient
is
is
all
30.
yeah. And the containers would be like 3 days.
3 days. When ambient is hot, Is it like something?
Yeah. So there are 2, 3 questions, and people were concerned about how it will be viable, how it can be, how we can actually look at when we have seasonal business. So probably this can be one of the things, and other thing which Sudhirji said that we can have rented out models. That would be something good for FPOs, for startups who are there. One more question was there in terms of partnerships. Once again.
थोड़ा सा ये होगा बट that will be आपका
I'm trying to go through so there is one question about someone who is into NABL certified accredited food testing and wants to enter into the cold chain logistics. So I think there are enough of discussions here which we did for new technologies about supply chain. So probably you'll have to get in touch with some one of us for showing how this industry works. If you are interested, I remember what Sanjay ji said that you need to be very careful for I mean getting into this industry because this is I mean there's a lot of risk and a lot of other issues or rather lot of other parameters that needs to be faced. There are questions on subsidies also. So Sanjay ji, I'll just request you if you can just again reiterate what are the available subsidies for cold chain, maybe it is MIDH or food processing. I think that would be a small recap and do for.
Yes, sure. Sure, Jay. Well, the whole industry is still waiting, for MFPI new scheme, which any day now, really, it's already overdue. And as far as MIDH is concerned, all they have announced, I mean, like 10,000 rupees a ton for a cold storage or 20,000 rupees a ton for a CA storage. And that's where I have an issue with them. I would like the government to be more clear and transparent. Let them not say that a CA storage costs 20,000 rupees a ton and they are giving us a 50% subsidy. A CA storage really costs more than 70,000 rupees a ton. And if they give us a subsidy of only 10,000 rupees a ton, then let them say that they are giving us 15% subsidy or 14% subsidy. By calling a spade, people will be able to plan their projects better, will not be, cutting corners and making substandard projects. So this is what government needs to correct, and of course we are all waiting for their announcement.
You're talking of which one announcement, sir? For the cold chain by Ministry of Food Processing or
yes.
NHB? Okay.
MFPI, Ministry of Food Processing.
MFPI, okay. So MFPI also had this cold chain subsidy scheme,
yes.
which is currently in play. It offers up to say 10 crores of subsidy for a project of around 20-25 crores. Also on a smaller level also, but there are other multiple things like MIDH or NHB who are giving for very small cold storages up to 1 or 2 crores. Okay, there is another question here, which is one second. Yeah, Lakshmi Prakash Sembal. He has asked about partnership model for replication of the their model. This is about Anamrat. Anamrat, yeah, it's again about Apple, sir.
Yes.
They have a clear demonstration of how the farmers have come together and actually made it successful. And he would like to explore more participation and partnerships across. So I think Shirish, you can share these links which has been posted on this chat board. There's one question from a startup in Kerala who is into pineapple juices, and again he wanted to know about the schemes for startups. So is there any specific scheme for startups?
Well, I think the Prime Minister did announce a scheme for startups. And I'm sure all that information should be available on internet. So if he Googles that, he will see government schemes for startups. And there are some good schemes there for startups. But again, like I said, he should have a clear sense of his business case. Of course, it's common sense, not only for this, but business,
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, and I'll just request all the panelists, if you have got individual questions directly from participants, if you can check in your chat board, is there any questions that you received? Because that will not be visible to me. So if there is any, please answer that. And then we can move to the closing remarks.
If anyone likes, Ajay, they can write to me directly and I'll answer their question. So that's fine with me. To save everyone's time here.
No, we are already overshotted by, I think, half an hour.
Yeah.
So, is there any questions to panelists? I mean, directly being asked to panelists? No. Sudhir ji, Sumit ji, Pankaj ji, both Pankajis.
Yeah, I get one questions from somebody that we should use blockchain in the area of cold chain logistics.
Okay.
Well, it is a very good question, but very first we have to bring basics, which is traceability. Blockchain is the second stage. We don't want to spend money on cold chain. And I just give you one thing about Japan. If Japan has a huge investment in cold chain logistics, there is a huge subsidy, 30% by government, even now. So if India has to grow cold chain logistic, government has to give subsidy for all cold chain moves because cold chain logistic is costly. And I just tell you, Japan, 30,000 farmers died every day. I mean, every year, around 15,000 people, farmers commit suicide because farmers are suffering all over the world. So it's a very obvious. So the government has to take seriously step that they do subsidy in all the logistics, either 5% or 10%. Otherwise, we have a price war, we never move. This is what I say when I see all the logistics, even Dubai and Indonesia and Vietnam and Europe and America. Government has to make this step. They have to make standard. Any movement of the food product has to have some discount, subsidy. Otherwise, farmers will suffer forever.
Right. So, any last word from any of the panelists or the other, final comments before we close the session and the vote of thanks is given? Panelist, anything that you would like to say here?
Thank you.
Finally-
Thank you, Ajay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Shirish, I'll request you for a vote of thanks to all the panelists. I think they've been very wonderful panel here who have given their views. Shirish, are you there? Shirish, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
And now am I audible?
Yes, very low, but I mean, you have to increase the volume.
Yeah, now am I audible?
Yes, yeah. Now it is okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So on behalf of SHM, I would like to thank all the esteemed panelists that have joined today for this webinar, our moderator Ajay ji, and all the participants who have joined. So I must say that this webinar has provided a great insight about the cold chain industry. And as we all discussed that with the growth of the organized retail food sector, we can also expect the development of the cold chain industry at large in India, right? And all the points that are raised are very well noted, and the recommendations we will be forwarding it to the government. So that's all from my side. At last, I would like to thank once again to all the panelists, moderator, our sponsors, our partners, and all the participants who have joined this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.